I'm not sure how many people remember this game. It still exists, but I think it was pretty popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. At least when I was younger, I recall that being kind of where the peak of the popularity of this game was. The video game for the computer was called Flight Simulator. And what it was is pretty much what the name said. It was a flying simulator. I do know people, a buddy of mine when I was in high school actually was a pilot that actually used the game as an actual training tool. Like it's designed basically so when you're at your house, you can sort of practice just takeoffs, landings, learning the controls, the whole deal. I don't know how much you can actually develop from playing a game like that, but I tend to just recall how popular that was, at least in my life, where my buddy used to play it all the time, who was a pilot, and also my father as well, who was not a pilot, but just an avid enjoyer of the game. And so one of the things, though, that was very, very challenging in this game was, and obviously it's not in mirror real life, is sometimes when you play the game, the weather conditions will be very foggy. It'll be at night, it'll be foggy. You can't really see where you're flying. You can't necessarily see where you're going. And the advice you're given in the game, and it correlates to real life advice, is if you're piloting something and you cannot see outside, you need to trust your instruments. You've got to trust all the little gears basically that tell you your altitude, how high you are, the ones that tell you your balance, the whole deal. That's what you need to rely on when you can't actually see outside your window. And the reason why I've been thinking about that more is at this point right now in the storyline that I'm writing, I don't know where I'm headed now. I sort of burnt through the first probably 2/3 of the storyline already. So I've written the first 2/3 already, but which is nice. It's been, only... God, I've been working on it, not even a week now. I've been working on it. So the progress has been great, but the downside is I'm getting into the last third of the book and I don't know where the storyline is going to end up. I don't know how I'm going to fix this. I had the beginning and I had a slight idea of how I wanted to end the story in my head, but I have never actually planned on what I was going to do in this final act. And so for me, it's very equatable to me sort of flying right now where I can't see outside. I don't know where I'm going. I have a general sense, but I don't know exactly where I am. And I feel very, very lost here. And so I'm reminding myself to just continue to look at my instruments, to trust my instruments. And for me, the instruments really are not just my imagination, not just having the working knowledge of story and plot arc structure, but the actual just sentence after sentence after sentence, just thinking one sentence at a time, just thinking one paragraph at a time, one chapter at a time. And when I'm getting stuck now, being okay with just taking a day to maybe get one chapter done, maybe scaling back what I'm doing. So that way, instead of maybe, 5 hours of writing in a day, maybe it's like 2 hours of writing and 3 hours just staring at the computer, kind of coming up with an idea, playing with ideas of how I could correct this. And so that's what I've been doing. Today was good in the sense that I sort of burnt through the last part of the sections that I knew I wanted to write. So I'm at this point, I'm pretty much through everything I had plotted out. Going into tomorrow, I'm completely blind. I know I have some ideas kicking around about what I could potentially do, but nothing solidified, and I'm not sure how I could even write some of these scenes. So for me, this is going to be the challenge. I've got about 7 scenes left to write, so for me, each scene is basically a chapter. So they're relatively condensed sections, which is nice. They're not particularly long chapters or long sections. So 7 more sections, 7 more chapters left. Hoping that I can get it done. I like I said, within the next, again, my goal was to get at least this new stuff written in the next week or so. I think, one a day basically is 7 days, so that's within a week. But for me, that's where I'm at right now. That's sort of the trepidation I'm going into. Is tomorrow I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I just know I got to sit down at the computer and I got to get something done. Hopefully, I'll not end up smashing my my head against the keyboard here, but certainly no promises. Yeah. So for me, I just got to keep my head down, look at the instruments, and just trust that this plane is going in the direction it needs to go in.